At Jackson Water, we are in the game and locked in on our goals. Every day, our dedicated teams are hard at work, ensuring that clean, reliable water flows to every home and business in Jackson. We are not just fixing pipes. We're investing in a brighter, more resilient future for our city. Jackson Water. Water for all the time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for Wlbt Plus. My name is Kara Shirley. I'm your digital news desk host. It is Monday, the 24th of March, and we brought you a whole series talking to the Jackson mayoral candidates. And now today and tomorrow, we're talking to the Flowood mayoral candidates. And today joining us is Miss Kathy Smith. Hi, Miss Kathy.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm going to pull this closer to you. Go ahead. All right. So I'm very happy to have you on. I'm glad that you were able to. I know it was a last minute ask, so I'm glad that you were able to fit us in.
I appreciate it.
So you're running for the mayor of Flowood on the Republican ticket, and there's only two of you guys in the primaries. That's coming up on April the 1st. So if you are planning to vote in the primaries, it's April the 1st. Don't forget that.
And it's at City Hall. Don't forget that.
Yeah, what she said.
one precinct, which is different from municipal because so few people vote. So we need you to get out and vote, regardless of who you're for. You need to get out and vote.
That's right. So you have been is it alderman, alderwoman? What's the politically correct term?
Alderman. I don't know what's politically correct, but alderman's easier to say, so I just say alderman.
Would you have been the alderman or one of the aldermen for Ward 2, correct?
Yes, I was the alderman for Ward 2 for 16 years. I am currently an alderman, which is, for people that don't know, the alderman is a city council person. So in our city, we're divided into 4 wards. And then we have what I call the tiebreaker vote, but that's the guy that runs for the whole city, the person that's going to represent the city as a whole. They have to campaign for the whole city versus the wards, which are basically you're campaigning to your neighbors. So a little bit easier than the person who's doing for the whole. So we have 5 people that make up city council, and those 5 people make all the decisions for the city. We do the budget. We do all the hiring, all the firing, all the projects, anything that is done in the city goes through city council. So I've been able to do that, privileged to do that for 16 years, and I've loved it.
And the current mayor of Flowood, he is retiring.
He's retiring.
And so that leaves that position open. So
that's right.
Tell us, why do you want to be mayor of Flowood?
Well, before we went on the air, you and I were talking about our children, right? And so for 16 years before I had my first child, I had city council. I helped run the city. And so for 16 years, we have just ate, slept, breathed the city of Flowood. And I always say it's faith, family, Flowood. And this was just kind of a natural next step. The person who is overseeing everything, the mayor is, stepping aside, retiring, and asked me 4 years ago if I would run. And I was honored. I felt very honored that he would ask me that. And was like, absolutely. Didn't even have to think about it. Just love the city of Flowood and love watching the city grow and prosper. And I'm happy that I've played a part in that.
So this has been on your radar then for the past 4 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of time to prepare.
Well, 16 years is a lot of time to prepare.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
Doing the work for 16 years and having a voice in the direction the city's going. And it's been wonderful. We've got very low crime in Flowood, and we've got, our violent crime statistics. When our new chief came in, our violent crime statistics actually dropped by like 77%.
77.
I mean, we didn't have much anyway. So, have violent crime is virtually non-existent in Flowood, which is wonderful. We have episodes now and then, just like any city would, with, only 10,000 people live in Flowood, but we have, over 30,000 that come through Flowood every day and that work in Flowood. It's like 28,000 people work in Flowood. So we compete with larger cities, but we're able to keep a very safe city. And that's why people rush into it so much, is that the city is so safe and has so much to offer.
See, I would have never thought that Flowood only had 10,000 residents.
Right.
Just because it seems so big.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I would have never thought that it only had 10,000 residents. When you look at Flowood on the map, you've got, Jackson, you've got Brandon, Ridge. I mean, it's
Mhm.
really almost kind of landlocked. Is there room for expansion as far as residents go? I mean,
Sure.
I know you guys are expanding all the time
Mhm.
with different restaurants and things like that,
Mhm.
but what about more residents?
Sure. So right now there's a lot of development going on around 471. There's like Lost Pine, Kensington. Those developments are still growing. Homes still being built. They're gorgeous, by the way. If anybody's looking to move to Flowood, Gardens and Manships expanding. That's what right there on Manship, and it actually runs down almost to Grants Ferry. Um, and then we have Bristol Crossing. It's in that same area. Those are beautiful homes. St. Jude Dream Homes in
That's
there.
right. I was fixing
Yeah,
to say
St.
that
Jude
our
Dream
the
Home.
WLB2 St. Jude Dream Home
Yeah,
was over
it's
there.
in there, and we did the groundbreaking on it a few weeks back, and just going to be beautiful as they always are.
Mhm.
But very nice areas to move to in Flowood, and we've got plenty of room for expansion, and we've been very responsible to, like, any areas that there's potential for us to take over. We've gone in and bought up, the water pipes and whatnot, so we can keep up the systems. So if we ever do, we wouldn't be inheriting or purchasing something that's dilapidated, that
Right.
we can keep as we have technology grow and better products available for piping and whatnot, that we're able to go and offer that to people who aren't inside the city and put them on city water, just in case we do ever take those areas in. So a lot of well thought out growth in Flowood, and a lot of potential for it to continue.
Because that sounds like to me that you are planning for that growth for more residential. If you are going in and going ahead and getting the people
Mhm.
on the city water and having the preparations
That's
to
right.
fix the things, so it looks like you're already planning for that growth.
Mhm.
So, what are outside of what you just talked about with the buying the water pipes rather? What are some of the other ways that maybe if you were to get elected as mayor, your plans to continue that growth?
The expansion will, when we take in a subdivision or area, that's done by petition. So we wouldn't take in, Mill Creek, Castlewoods, ones like that, unless they petition the city to do that. And when they do, then they would come in and have the benefit of fire and police and things of that nature. So that's one thing to be said, that we don't just go out and scoop up those subdivisions.
Yeah.
They approach us. So anyway.
Well, tell us, as you're getting out there and you're campaigning, you're talking to residents, what are you hearing as some of the biggest problems that your residents are seeing in Flowood?
Well, the residents are concerned about growth. They want it to be done responsibly, which we're doing. We've got a lot of developments coming to Flowood that haven't been announced yet, and so people
We would love
see.
for you to announce them
Oh,
right
I've
now.
got
I mean, you can give
got
us the
some scoop
exclusive.
for you.
Yeah, anytime. We will always take the exclusive. No.
So, in Flowood, there's 3 areas of development that are over the next, I don't know, 2 to 5 years, something like that, that I think people will see really take off. Around the Sheraton, we have what's called the entertainment district, and that area is getting in some restaurants that are out of town restaurants. They'll have some local stuff that'll probably open shop there as well, but have got a lot of letters of intent from restaurants. And so that's going to be uh, very similar to the district. It'll be larger. I think it's about 300 acres out there. It'll have the like the condos like you see at the district. It's very
Mhm.
nice, a big grassy lawn for people to listen to music and have some, whatever type of entertainment, and then a lot of restaurants. So one of the restaurants is Woody's Fireside Grill. I don't know if you've been there,
I have not.
but that's a coast restaurant. And then also the Blind Tiger from the coast. That's another one that's going to come there, and I love that. My family and I go to the Blind Tiger when we have our convention on the coast, and so that's some of that. And then down at the Pinelands, Justin Mafus is doing a great job down there. Some fast food's gone in over the last few years down there, but he's trying to develop that out like the town center. So it'll be a lot nicer as the years roll on and he gets in more of the development, more of it going. That's going to be a very nice development in that area. And of course, Water Point, they've got a lot going at Water Point, and that development's been through a lot. And there's some beautiful houses out there. There's some restaurants coming to that area. They're not ready to announce, but they sounded like from the word I was getting, it's fine dining. So
Yes.
that's what a lot of people are waiting on. That's what a lot of people are hoping for. And then we've got, always traffic is an issue with the residents they want to talk about. So we've got some widening. We've always done that. And we try to, when we're working on projects with MDOT, we try to let them announce what's happening. So through the years, if you've watched in Flowood, Lakeland Drive has been expanded, right? That was a huge project. And East Metro Parkway. We built that. And then, of course, there's the Fannie Cook Parkway that's going to run. It kind of takes some of the pressure off of that should go from the four-way at at Airport Road, and it goes up to Liberty, and it'll V off, and then it'll come out on Old Fannie Road further up. So that'll relieve a ton of pressure from the traffic flow on Lakeland Drive.
Because I'm not going to lie, if I cannot take Lakeland, especially
Right.
5 o'clock traffic or coming to work, I don't. So
it's a lot. It's a lot. But those roads will continue. We've got some that'll be announced in the next few weeks, even that the city's already, had gotten a deadline to move our lines and things like that for roadways that are about to be expanded. So that's a lot of good stuff going on, and the things that people are concerned about. Those have been the two main things that people have talked about. So there's we've got a lot going on to resolve those.
What about the vacant buildings that you have there in Flow? We have, Steinmart, Backyard Burgers. How do you plan to utilize those businesses moving forward in the development of Flowood?
So that's really important to us. And about, 3 or 4 years ago, we hired an economic developer, and he began working on that. And then after, 8, 9 months, he got scooped up by another company, and they, an engineering company took him and, gave him some type of national position or something. So we got our second economic developer in Flowood's history, and that's Daniel Lang. And Daniel's 24/7, day in, day out, what he does is try to fill those buildings. So for 2 years, Daniel worked on a company to go in Steinmart. And we got within weeks of announcing, and it was like this interior design type flooring, business. We were all super excited about it. We're so ready to announce. And of course, it's not the city's business. It's the city negotiating, I say playing matchmaker, but the city negotiating that building owner, property manager with someone who's looking to locate their business in Flowood, right? So last minute, the whole thing fell through. We start over from scratch. Now it's back on the table. And with that business, it would take in Steinmart, and it would take in part of Dress Barn, or the old Dress Barn location that was right next to Steinmart. People ask about that a lot, but we have businesses in Flowood. If you look at like Zavation, I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but like if you ever have to go in for spine surgery, Jeffrey Johnson that owns Zavation, they make the part in Flowood that they put in spines all across the nation.
Wow.
And that's like a block from my house. It's crazy.
Wow.
Right?
I didn't know
that
that.
we have that in Flowood, and it's not just a statewide leader. It's a national and worldwide leader, and it's right there in Flowood. So they're making, you go in for like spinal fusion, you need all types of back surgeries, and they make these little parts. And they started off in a building that a lot of us call McGraw. It was the McGraw rental building, and McGraw closed that location, and they went in there, and they were in there for a few years, and they grew so much. They moved up the road, and they took another manufacturing facility. And what happened was that Dig opened, and Dig is the one they wrap vehicles.
Okay.
And Mitch Wolverton and those guys are wonderful, and they wrap vehicles, and they moved from this. They were in a small space down close to Courthouse Gymnastics. That's all on Liberty Road. So I'm just using these for example. So Dig moved up to the Zavation location because they were getting bigger. So we're constantly hooking these things up where people can move in to a larger location if they need it, to make, use of empty spaces as they become available. And Flowood's really, really blessed. We did fairly well through COVID. We saw very little decrease in our taxes. We never bottomed out or anything like that. And in the time I've been on city council, we've had so so much good has happened physically in Flowood. We went from 8 million in reserves to 28 million in reserves this year. So we do have that security. So people are looking to come to Flowood. So anyway, we move in, we match make, we get people into the buildings they need to be in. There was empty space where Children's Place was at. And so we've got a shoe store going in there right now. And there had been an empty space, the yard moved in a few years back and they filled an empty space. All through there, if you look, there's a wonderful new bath company, soap company that opened in that same area. So we're constantly filling spaces, and Daniel does a great job with it. He's always got his pulse on who's looking for what space and can just rattle it off the top of his head. And, he sent me a list of everybody that he had talked to, people wanting to come to Flowood. And I just looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't even remember all this. I mean, it was just spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet. I mean, it's what he does all the time. So very proud of that. I'm very proud of the economic development in Flowood and having our finger on the pulse of it and being able to go out and get what people are wanting and bring it in.
So a lot of times you'll see where in city governments where the alder person or alderman, they're more concerned about their ward than outside of it. And I'm not saying this is with you, but in this instance, is there anything that you have done specifically for your ward that you can speak to, that you are something that is an accomplishment for you that you're very proud of, and maybe not something that would have been a combined effort from all of the aldermen?
So a lot of what we do in our wards is we're handling issues with our neighbors. Like there was a busted pipe just in the last few days over the weekend. Somebody posted it. Hey, do y'all notice this area is wet? And, we go in and we call the right people and get someone to come in and check on that. In Ward 2, the biggest development that's been over the last few years, we built a retention pond. There were some families that were getting lot of water into coming beside their houses. It wasn't getting in the houses, but the creek was expanding. So we got some acres and we put in a retention pond to alleviate some of that watershed. And I would say that's the biggest thing that we've done just specifically in my ward. Over the years, we've worked together to put walking trails through my ward. One of those runs, my house is right on the busiest street in town, besides Lakeland Drive, we're the busiest street in town. So one of the walking trails goes right in front of my house, and it goes all the way down to Hugh Ward. It wraps around, goes down Wirtz, it comes out, goes down Hugh Ward. Joins with the trails of the county and that PRV have, all of those around there. Yeah. We've also got the pickleball facilities that are opening, and that's been great. Of course, that's a combined effort. I would say mostly of what is done in my ward directly is me working one-on-one to help resolve a problem that a constituent has.
Which is important. I mean, that is your job as alderperson.
Even with the retention pond, even with that's a combined effort. I would get other aldermen say, come look at this, come walk this ditch with me. Where can we get these funds? What do we do? How do we obtain this land to be able to put this in? Most of what we do in the city is a group effort other than tending to those one-on-one needs.
Right. Well, Flowood has so much good happening, so much going for it. But every town's got its faults. So what would you say is one of the faults of Flowood, and what is your plan to remedy that?
Faults of Flowood.
Is it hard to answer to?
I think we deal with the same things that lots of cities deal with. We have to keep the police very well funded, which we do. They're the highest paid in the county, because the crime, we're in a prime location for crime. We've got tons of retail. We sit shoulder to shoulder with the largest city in the state. And I think all of that is a recipe, to have high crime if you do not take care of your law enforcement. So in the mayor's race, the endorsement of our police chief to be able to vouch for me that, hey, this lady's done a good job through the years of coming through when it matters for our police force, and the fire chief. And having those guys, our fire chief told me, our guys get training. When I started breaking down what he was saying, it's almost an hour a day of training that they get.
Wow.
And anywhere that a person is in Flowood, you're within less than 5 minutes of response. So if you were like to have a heart attack, or if you were have somebody that knows advanced life support is on every single fire truck we have.
Wow.
They're all EMTs. We've got, I think, 6 that are paramedics right now. We've got several in paramedic school right now, but advanced life support on every shift, at every station, on every truck. Like, who can even say that? Our police force is fully staffed. It's the only one around we even know of that's fully staffed. Counting our dispatchers, we have 61 certified officers right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of good going, but we do, crime is a potential there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do that. You have to be proactive. And I've helped do that through the years. And with the economic development, bringing them in, having the foresight to do that. Not just me. I don't take credit for anything singularly, because we work together as a team. We've got a wonderful mayor. We've got a wonderful city council. Our department heads are top notch. I mean, it's a good place to be. It's a good place to live. It's a good place to work. But the economic development, those empty buildings could become a problematic if we didn't have a Daniel Lang 24/7 working on it. Like KFC shut a few weeks ago, and he had somebody to go in that spot before the signs were off the building.
Wow.
So it's just it's hard work, but not by one person, and no one person can take credit for anything we've done. If you look at any park that's been built, if you look at any building that's been built, there's been a collective team effort, like a family, working on all of this stuff since the inception of the city.
Yeah. And Flowood, how long has Flowood been a official city?
Well, we've only had 2 mayors. We had Mayor Chastain Flint, and then I think Mayor Rhodes took office in
1989. Yeah,
89. And so we're young. If you compare us to Brandon or Pearl, we're the baby of the county.
Yeah, the baby of the county. Yes. Well, let's talk about then. Bringing in more residents, bringing in more people. Does that mean that there will be more taxes that people will have to pay? The current residents, is that a higher tax burden going to fall on them, or is that a plan or something that you're looking that would need to be done?
So anybody who comes into the city, our millage is like a 0.2. That's what our millage is. So the lowest millage in the state for a city that offers city services like we do. There's some villages and towns that really don't have city services, that don't have millage. But for a city that offers, fire, police, these type of services, we're the lowest when you calculate in the garbage. Now, of course, garbage is not free. It's paid for by taxpayer dollars, but it's negotiated in a contract through West Rankin, and people do not have to pay a separate bill like they do in every other city of the state. So we refer to it as free garbage pickup, but you and I both know we live in the U.S. Everything's paid for through taxes, right? So what was your question? I'm sorry.
So it's okay. Is there a plan to increase taxes on the residents of Flowood,
No.
or is that something that you feel like would need to happen in the future?
Well, of course, as the economy grows and stuff like that, you can say, I'll never raise taxes. You can't say that, But what we've done, which is a great track record of what we will do, 20 years ago was the last time taxes were raised in Flowood. And what is very interesting to look at is those taxes were like a 0.31, which is still not considered high tax in Mississippi, like for millage is not. But the mayor said, we've got money in reserves. This is not good enough. Let's lower it. Where do you see that?
Nowhere.
So the only thing that Flowood's done over the last 20 years is lower the taxes. Will we always be able to do that? Nobody has a crystal ball that they could guarantee that. But I would say in my 16 years on city council, we have never raised taxes. And hopefully we can keep it that way. As the city grows and we have to pay our fire and we have to pay our police, that's something we'll have to face as it comes to us. But over the last 16 years, we've been able to do that without raising any taxes.
Well, let's talk about Flowood.
And we've had 30% growth. So it has
30%
been
growth.
We
Wow.
have maintained the no tax increase with 30% growth to the city.
30% for residents,
Yes.
or is that?
Yes, 30% for
Wow.
residents. Yeah,
That
and
is-
without any tax increase.
Without tax
So,
increase.
right. So that's been great, and it's a great track record for not just me, but for anybody on city council, and for our current mayor.
Is there any development being planned down Airport Road?
Well, that's where around the Sheraton is where the
That's right.
entertainment district is. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be lots of restaurants. It'll be the housing that encompasses going in right there on the Medical Parkway. And that's more like a rehabilitation type, long-term, like not long-term, but rehabilitation type facility. They're getting their certificate of need from the Supreme Court right now. So hopefully we'll see that underway in the near future. And there will be the similar development to the district. Most people love that. Nothing but top notch in Flowood. That's how it's always been. And we plan to keep it that way.
Well, Flowood doesn't have a city center, so to speak, or like a town square. But how do you plan to promote community and a sense of belonging for the residents there without having an area like that?
So, well, we haven't had a problem with it so far. I mean, we have great community events. Last year we had at the Flowood Festival, we had like 15,000 people there.
Wow.
And we have Crowder. We have Charity Gales opening for Crowder. And those are Christian artists. And I mean, literally have more people than the population of our town come in for these events. We have food trucks. We try to give first dibs to all of our restaurants, so that if Smalls, or if Lost Pizza, or if My Amigos, or El Torero, or if any of our restaurants, if they want to come out and they want to participate, they can set up a booth. Pokestop with Rachel Fuang Lee. She does wonderful Hawaiian type dishes, and she's going to be there. And we always have, Kona Ice, which is owned by Alex. He always comes out and sets up for us, and John Dolan that has Flying Dollies. And so I think the last time I checked, we had 23 food vendors. And when you have events like that and people feel safe, and you have the police proactively doing what they need to do, and the fire proactively doing what they need to do, we have a sense of community. Our community takes such good care of each other. If there's if there's a death, if there's a house fire, if there's a baby born, if there's we had a retirement party for one of our department heads a few days ago. City Hall was full, and so we always try to act as a family, and that gives a sense of community. Whether it's a restaurant we know that's been slow, and we all pile in and start texting our friends, hey, you need to show up here, you need to show up here. I was in a restaurant Sunday that had complained about being slow, and they had to open additional rooms to fit the people in Sunday. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, people were just busting out of this place, because that's how we are in Flowood. If you have an issue, we all show up to help. And so you don't have to have necessarily a town center. There's lots of towns that don't have a town center for that. But of course, we've got the nice developments at the Sheraton, at Waterpoint, at the Pinelands that Mafus is doing. And those are going to be great additions to what we already have.
So one thing that I've heard people talk about is not having enough places or things that are geared towards the senior citizen community. What are your plans to remedy that?
So we've got a lot of options. One, we have a building down on Underwood Drive that's a city auditorium, and they meet there once a year they have a big gala down there, and it's always a great event. Miss Susan Boland and Chris Bowers, our parks director, they always do a wonderful job planning that. But they meet routinely. They don't like to drive. That's kind of on one end of town, and they want something more centralized. And it's also not just Flowood residents. We have people that come from Pearl. We have people that come from the reservoir, and they meet in the library. And when I sat and talked with them a few weeks back about this, the main thing that we got was there's a room that they use at the library, and the space is typically sufficient. So there would be some occasions, like when they go down to Underwood, that maybe that it's not sufficient, but that room is rented out. and it has a kitchen. And they said, we come in here, we want to do our bingo, or we want to do our cards, and the room's rented out. And then we have to share a kitchen, and we can't get our snacks. And, it's things of that nature. So tons of options. Build a building, buy a building, expand the existing built room that they're using, at the library. We have the funds for that. So it would be a matter of sitting down with the incoming board and going through the options, see what's most fiscally responsible to do with, the taxpayer money, and just making a decision that meets the needs of the department at that time.
So you get elected as a mayor. What is your first item on the agenda moving into the office?
First item on the agenda, I'd have to appoint a police chief. That's done. So I would have to do that. My intent would be to carry on with the one that we have, and the fire chief would be the same. And with any retirement, I would look at, go through the process of seeing who's the most qualified, who's been doing the job, do the interviews, whatever's necessary to appoint whoever need to be appointed. So that would be just, step one on day one.
Step one, the police chief, which of course, like you said, the one that's in there, crime went down 77%.
Violent crime
went
down 77%. And that was per the state tracking system that tracks it all. All that information is available online.
Well, then we'll talking about violent crime going down that much. But with the incoming of more businesses, more retail business, that does or could lead the way for more crimes to happen. So what is the police department doing to make sure that that crime level does not go up, that those numbers don't increase?
It's boots on the ground. It's day in, day out watching. People typically know not to come to Flowood and start anything because our police are well staffed, full staffed, is what you and I discussed earlier. And they take care of business. So I think we have to keep the momentum going. It's, it's keeping an eye out for things that could turn bad to deter that crime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much going on in Flowood. And like I say, we go down Lakeland and you do see that the new businesses coming in. The big mirrored building.
Yes.
What is
Ergon.
that? Ergon. Okay.
Ergon's doing
I'm
it.
still new, kind of. I'm still kind of. I'll claim the new title for at least 2 years, so I'm still claiming that.
Ergon is doing an $80 million expansion. They are adding 200 jobs, and those 200 jobs, all of them are going to start right around $100,000 a year. What? Wow. Town in Mississippi that has 10,000 residents do you see that type of an addition? And that's common. Like they have already invested in the ISO panels plant that's in the other end of town. We had US Food come in a number of years ago, as well as Puckett Machinery moved into Flowood, and those are phenomenal places to work. And then just in the healthcare, Jackson Heart, GI Associates, Capital Ortho, sports medicine. I have family that live 2 hours away. And when something happens, they're like, oh, we're going to be in Flowood, because people from all over the state come to Flowood to see a doctor because we have so much, different type of facilities in our city.
Right. I'm very familiar with some of those doctors. I've had to go see some of them right
Me
there.
too. I was telling, I was on a radio show last week, and I was telling them that when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was going to deliver at River Oaks, and I timed it. I was 2 minutes from the delivery, room or whatever, from the hospital from my house. It was like wonderful. I'm like, where can you go and live? And you have, grocery stores and places to shop and places to eat and all of that. And it's just within minutes outside your front door.
It really is. It really is. I mean, there's so much to offer in Flowood, that just being an outsider coming in and moving into the area, and it just, there is a lot on Lakeland and a lot to offer. I mean, you can, from one end to the other, you can pretty much find anything that you need right there on Lakeland Drive, in my opinion, as a person driving up and down it, but not during rush hour traffic.
But not during rush hour traffic.
Not during rush hour traffic. Well, I mean, is there anything that you would want to say to anyone who may be still on the fence about
Mhm.
who they're going to vote for, not
Sure.
quite sure? Take this opportunity to convince them to vote for Kathy Smith.
I would say that I am the candidate that is currently in office. I am the candidate that has represented my ward for 16 years. I am the candidate, the only candidate that can say that I've helped run every department of the city for 16 years, all the hiring and firing decisions for 16 years. I'm on the board that has brought Flowood to where it's at today. And I take a lot of pride in that work that we've done over the last 16 years. And I want to continue that work as the mayor.
And continue as the mayor. Well, if you would like to vote for Miss Kathy Smith in the election that is coming up, that is on April 1st at City Hall.
At City Hall.
City Hall in Flowood. So make sure that you go, and you can still do an absentee
You can
ballot.
absentee vote Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. And then this Saturday only, it will be open 8 to noon. So you can absentee vote Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or at City Hall also on Saturday from 8 till noon.
Yeah, so it's very important that, like she said earlier, whoever you're voting for, we get out there and vote, because that's how your voice is heard.
That's right. And don't let the precincts not being there, be confusing, because regardless of if you vote at the church or the library or wherever you're used to voting, everyone in the entire city will vote at City Hall. Because I mentioned to several people door knocking, and I'll say, and you vote at City Hall? I don't vote at City Hall. I vote at the church. And I'm like, but now you vote at City Hall just for this one. Yeah, just for this one.
Yeah, just for this one. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Kathy, if they want to support your campaign or volunteer, anything like that? I noticed you were calling out for volunteers on your Facebook page.
Sign holders and, people calling friends to remind them to go vote. It's Smith for Mayor. Our email address is I'm just going to say my personal email address is
whatever you look. This is your moment.
It's Kathy Smith at smithformayor.com.
Okay, Kathy Smith at smithformayor.com. So if you want
Smith for Flowood,
Smith for Flowood. So if you want to get involved in the campaign or anything like that, you certainly can do that. Kathy, I appreciate you coming on and spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon, answering some questions, and just coming. I mean, it was a last minute ask, so I do appreciate you saying yes.
Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed it very much. And I would tell people to keep your eyes and ears open. There will be a lot of great things that are coming down the pipe that will be announced just in the next few weeks and months in Flowood.
And we get the exclusive.
You get the exclusive.
I wish I was that easy. I wish it was that easy. But no, thank you so much. Again, if you want to watch this entire interview, it will be posted on our website later. If you're just joining in late, or if you're just now joining in, you can watch it entirety on our website a little bit later before the end of the day. I can promise you that. We'll be back tomorrow at 1:00, and we will have the other mayoral candidate for Flowood, Greg Wilcox, will be in to talk with us tomorrow at 2:30 today. Our First Alert Weather team will be in here to give you an update on the forecast, because unfortunately there is a risk of severe weather coming again on Sunday. It seems like it's hitting us on the weekend. So, but hopefully that will, not happen. Maybe it'll peter out or something over the next few days. Yes, fingers crossed. But again, thank you so much, Kathy, for coming in. Make sure that you get out and vote. Whoever it is you're voting for, get out and vote on April the 1st. And I will see you tomorrow at 1:00. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.